Hey, I'm Justin Sirois, and I'm going to read from my new fiction series named So Say the Waiters. It's a serialized book. Books 1 and 2 are out right now, and just to give you a little bit of backstory, it's about a cell phone app and social network that allows people to schedule their own kidnappings. So if you can imagine downloading this app, it's GPS enabled, and you create a profile, and once you sort of get the guts to do it, you can type in a submission. It could be anything. It could be being in a closet for an hour watching Survivor and eating grapes, or it could be 2 days of the most wild experience you can imagine. So you type that into the app, you hit submit, and if the company accepts it, within 48 hours a kidnapper, comes to fulfill that experience for you. So the series, it explores the birth of that company as a startup, and critiques social networks and the way that they change our lives. It's probably all I really want to say as far as exposition goes. But I'm going to read from book 2, episode 6. This main character, he's the co-founder of the company, which is called Kidnap, and his taker name is Haymaker, his pseudonym. So this is episode 6, a few months ago. Haymaker knew he had been seeing things differently now that Kidnap was established, now that it was thriving in the app stores and in everyone's pocket. In a way, he felt as if he was living in over 500,000 pockets, over 600,000 users and climbing. A feature on his administrative version of the app kept him updated on how many users the company had, their grand total, their money number. It indicated how many users were passive, just boring voyeurs, or if they had activated their submit, if they had submitted to him, because he knew he could take anyone he wanted, absolutely anyone. And this special version of the app showed the small fraction of users who were beautifully exposed waiters. Those waiters on the edge of anxiety, who he could scoop up at any second. He boarded at LAX to connect in Houston, but not before meeting a few trusted takers outside the airport, a quick lunch among colleagues. They shared stories and techniques. Haymaker gave the best advice he could, had one of the young takers handcuffed on the floor at one point, and paid for the entire bill. From Houston he flew to Atlanta and did the same, dinner and drinks, but with twice as many takers. Many of them well known in the Kidnap network, and a few new, enthusiastic recruits that seemed to have real talent. He told them, "I think you guys are doing great. Get your reviews and ratings up. I'll be in touch." They marveled at his thick wallet as he pulled it out to pay. "Man, that's a thick-ass wallet," one of the new takers said. "Nothing really in there," Haymaker said, which was almost the truth. He spent the night, took a waiter, the most outrageous waiter he could find, stalking her while zip-cycling his handcuffs in an endless loop like a ratchet, tightening control over his empire. He let her know who he was. "I'm Glenn Haymaker. Do you know what that means?" He understood once his waiter knew who he was, that they were much less likely to utter their safe word. Is it an abuse of power if the less powerful party forfeits for pleasure? These were things he wondered sometimes, alone, in transition from one sort of take to another, wondering if there was any part of his life that wasn't taking anymore. Orlando to Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia and New York. He jotted notes on beverage napkins, half-sentences about freedom and Kidnap, and how Kidnap had gone from experimental to successful in the matter of a couple years. He stretched his legs. To stretch his legs, he walked the length of the plane to the furthest restroom and locked himself inside, combed his hair, and used his electric razor to get the perfect length of beard stubble, barely a 5 o'clock shadow. Deboarding, this was the second time he found half a peanut inside his shoe. He rented cars when the situation called for it, crawled out to remote maple syrup country and the Old Dominion when the take was worth it. He scrolled through waiters' profiles, hundreds of them, and reassigned himself takes that were originally assigned to other takers. That's how it goes. No hard feelings. Denver and Chicago and Portland. He met with up-and-coming takers at coffee houses, gave inspirational talks to burnt-out takers, believing, also reassuring himself, that kidnap is a phenomenon, a cultural shift in the making. Though they weren't his words, they came from his heart. We're creating the culture we want to live in. It was impossible to count how many clip-on ties he gave away, always lime green. How many hands he shook, takers he trained. By the end of the week, he was back in LA to take a celebrity because he assigned himself every famous actor or singer. It was impossible to remember how many waiters he snatched and caressed and took his time undressing, each of them following him on Kidnap and adding to his fame. It was fame, he understood. Who's in whose pocket now? So that's book 2. Book 3 will be out this summer, 2014, and it'll round out or finish the story.